Hello and welcome to our first episode of The Burning Wheel. I am here with. How would you like to introduce yourself?
Dylan is fine.
All right, Dylan. I'm here with Dylan and I am Kyle, and we've got a two-person game of Burning Wheel going. It's a pretty good way to play this game. And we have set up a rather complicated intrigue scenario, but we'll just sort of run you through the basics of what is going on, and the rest will become obvious as we continue playing. So essentially, our backstory is that our main character, Nusha, is a member of the Iranian Republic. And this was a merchant republic, a landlocked merchant republic, that has, well, gotten itself into a lot of trouble. They have lost recently a war that they were waging for decades, which was against a nearby kingdom that they had hoped to collect debts from. Unfortunately for them, that kingdom happened to be related to a somewhat further off empire, the Xia Empire, which we kind of see as a little bit modeled off of maybe Ming China. And the empire got involved in the war and just stomped the Iranian Republic's forces. Now, the Republic is in a situation where they have to pay reparations to the Empire. And our main character, Nusha, is a collector of those reparations, who has been sort of quickly pressed into service for the Guild of Notaries, which was formerly a rather insignificant guild in the city, but has, since the Xia settlement ended, become very important and very politically hot potato that most people don't want to get involved with. The guild is collecting on those reparations, as I said. That's become their main sort of business, and it's being run by Nusha's brother, who she doesn't like very much. As part of...
She also seems to want that job too.
Yes, she wants to be the head of the guild.
Feels slighted.
There are some complications, though. One is that the Iranian Republic is highly misogynistic, and that is a cultural trait they have. So it's going to be very tough for a woman to become a guild master. The second complication is that she is working for the marshal the Xia Empire has sent to oversee the reparations collection. This is Chaolian, who is a rather ambitious character, and along with Nusha is scheming to actually undermine the entire collection process towards the end of starting a new war. And in the last episode of this series, or the last session that we ran, which was the first, so you're not jumping in too late, Nusha agreed to go with Chaolian to a ball that is being held by the Iranian premier, the head of the Republic. And the two of them are going as a couple. They have a rather complicated relationship, but hey, they're showing up at the ball together. And this is scandalous on many, many levels. We have set up like nested levels of scandal. So first of all, it is two women going together as a couple to the ball, which is generally not really approved of in the Republic, especially not by the premier, who is a real piece of work.
That's polite.
Yeah. Also, Nusha has agreed to dress in the dress of the Xia Empire as opposed to Aranea, her normal clothes, which is, again, sort of a slap in the face of everybody there. And additionally, she failed some roles, and as a consequence, Chelian had her dress up as her younger sister, which in the Xia Empire holds the connotation of being someone's prostitute. So that also is a real bad look.
Not exactly the way she wanted to go to the party.
Yeah, and it is a thing that Chelian did not tell Nusha.
She's
So,
finding it out through context clues last we left her.
yeah, basically they showed up at the party at the end of the last session, and they were introduced, and for most of the people at the party, it was scandalous and shocking because they showed up together and because they were dressed in the dress of the Xia Empire, both of them. However, there were some people at the party who were a little bit more savvy about Xia culture than Nusha herself, and also picked up on those more subtle clues about what the clothing indicated. So the levels of outrage and scandal are going to sort of escalate as we go on in this scene. To begin with, why don't we have a look at Nusha's beliefs, instincts, and traits, and then we'll get going from there. So what are your beliefs?
So Nusha's beliefs, her overarching goal, and what everything is driving toward, is that she believes that a collapse of the peace treaty, more or less along the same lines as the Marshal, will disgrace her brother, and therefore she's going to sabotage the reparations payments to cause chaos within the Iranian Republic. In addition to that, she knows that Chalian is fond of her, so the Marshal is fond of me. I will manipulate her to my advantage, whatever that may be.
Yeah, and just to sort of clarify, Chalian also has a very similar belief about Nusha. They both think that they're getting the better of the other one.
Right. And the third involves a character who's not really come into play just yet, Long Wei, who is, I guess we decided a deposed noble
Yeah.
of Xia descent, and has been moonlighting as a bodyguard for Nusha. His name is Long Wei, and Nusha says, "Long Wei is my beloved. I will work to restore his standing." It's not clear yet how many people may know exactly who he is and why he's there, but he's keeping a fairly low profile at the moment as just her bodyguard.
Yeah, we will probably see him become a much more significant player in the next session of the game.
Right. I don't believe he's at this party.
No, you're going with Chelian's bodyguards, not your own.
Right.
And your instincts.
Yeah, my instincts when doing work always cover my tracks. Nusha knows what she's doing is going to ruffle a lot of feathers, and wants to leave those feathers unruffled for as long as possible. Always remember slights against me. Nusha holds grudges, which is the reason that she's getting into this mess in the first place. And then lastly, when pressed by an authority figure, always yield, which has already led to some interesting
All right. So how about your traits?
Alrighty. Traits for Nusha include, I gotta scroll down for these. Light sleeper, a lot of that coming from kind of a background as a money runner on the streets. She is of kind of lower middle class birth, and has dealt with more unsavory types. She's also quite hard-hearted, as would befit anybody who is doing debt collection. And she is also a flatterer, so she thinks that the best crimes essentially are those, or the best scenario is one in which a person doesn't know they've gotten bilked a little bit.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I won't run through the other characters' beliefs right away here. We'll instead get into play. And I think we just sort of, do the TV drama trope of sort of rewinding a few minutes back into the previous episode before we start out here. And we see the pair of Chelian and Nusha enter the party together. They are announced by one of the servants of Furkat, the premier. And when that happens, everybody takes a brief look towards them and then does like basically a double take. And there's a gasp that runs through the crowd. We see the crowd itself, which is, very cosmopolitan. It has many members from Aranea itself, dressed in sort of, the Iranian clothes. But in addition to that, we also see people from many other lands there. There's some elves. There are many other humans from other places. Probably some people from Xia, not a whole lot, maybe a few. And we probably also see Furkat himself look at the pair of them and his eyes narrow. He is a man of about 54 years old. I think he's just, a very sort of I think he probably has dark black hair, short cut, and probably has a somewhat, he's a little bit on the pudgier side because he's a very, very wealthy man, and also has a bit of a hard look about him, and has probably around his neck a chain that represents his office as the premier. So his eyes narrow, and then we cut back to the pair, Chelian and Nusha, and Chelian does a bow to the crowd, as everybody sort of murmuring and hubbubbing. Right. So what do you do, Nusha?
Nusha's still, I think, a little bit taken aback by having figured out she's been played.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm imagining she's probably on the back foot right now.
Well, how much do you understand? How against your expectations was this happening?
Not so getting played. So seeing that there's going to be a show on behalf of this is something I think she would have expected,
Mm-hmm.
given that they're going as a same-sex couple in Aranea, and everything she knows is that that's generally frowned upon. I don't think she knew or understood that she was being passed off as a prostitute and what that means.
And probably still doesn't understand that, right?
Right. But it's starting probably to gather that there's maybe a little bit more to this than just, I don't know if there's a role that she needs to make.
Yeah, totally. I think we could probably do a observation check. I just want to check the skill description to see if that is relevant. Yeah, almost nobody ever has observation, which is...
I think I gave it to Long Way, but...
Yeah, that's a good call. It is a very good skill to have. You can only take so many skills. Observation. Observation is the skill used to spot the hidden, characters, traps, ghosts, etc. No, so I don't think that's it.
Like a Xiaowise or...
I don't think it would be Xiaowise either. It's probably let's look at the skill list. Court-wise, it might be, but I also just feel like it's reading a room, which is... Yeah. What the hell is that? So... I don't think it's an etiquette test, because you are just sort of like looking at what's happening, you know?
Not trying to pull off the right thing to do or anything, just trying to understand what's already going.
Mm-hmm. Like, you could totally fork etiquette into it.
Right. Reputation-wise is one that's in here.
Right. But yeah, I still feel like it's kind of observation.
Sure, yeah, we can roll that. It would be untrained for her, so you're gonna have to walk me through again exactly how we do that.
Okay,
It's
sure.
double the ob, right?
Yeah, I think it is double the ob. For advancement, the purposes of advancement, you don't count the doubling. And remember, because it's untrained, you just put in the base ob, and then the game will the character sheet will double it for you.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
observation is derived from what?
perception.
Perception.
Actually, you know what? Why don't you just make a perception check?
Straight perception?
Yeah, just a straight perception check.
How would I do that?
I think you can just test your stat on your character sheet there.
Is that rolled against double ob or?
I don't think so. We've never done a stat check before, so let's check it out.
Let's see. Modifiers, any?
I would say this is like, in order to understand what is happening at like a deeper level, I would say maybe this is like an ob 2.
Okay.
And let's like, I don't think you can fork into stat checks, but let's see. Okay. Versus linked. Time help. Okay, maybe it's in the beginning here. Standard tests. Yeah, so I think
I'm not seeing it.
yeah, so perception. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not really. Maybe it's under the fork section, actually. That would make sense. It would say.
Where is the fork section?
That is a good question.
Yeah, I really need to put in flags in this book. That's a tough one to navigate.
I agree. I should do the same. So. So I think it's probably like fairly.
I don't think she has anything she could fork into it in any case.
Would be good to know though.
Yeah.
So forks. It's advancement. Learning new skills. Okay, it's in here. Page 36. A player may have his character use his varied experience to help himself. We call this using your fields of related knowledge or forks. When testing a skill, each related skill the character possesses can be used like help to add an additional die to the roll. So that sounds to me like you can't fork into a stat check.
Seems to just be skills.
Yeah, so why don't you make that perception test as ob 2, so 4 against ob 2.
No bueno.
Alright, so you're going to mark advancement on perception, a routine test for perception. Oh, right, that's right. It's a stat, so you only need difficult and challenging. So it's useless, but you fail.
Okay. All right.
Um, yeah, so you don't notice that there's anything especially wrong about the situation, just that, people are scandalized in general.
As much as I thought they were going to be.
Yeah, yeah. If everything seems to be as you expected, and just to
Yep.
give the audience sort of an idea of what it is exactly that Nusha is wearing, it is very much like a sort of like long, flowing, multi-layered robe, series of robes.
Xiao style too. So
Yes,
already looking out of place.
and the sort of like outer layer is like a rather thin fabric. It's like a sort of a bright pink color, and long sleeves on it that sort of droop down. And I think we also said that she had a like a lacquer hairpiece in with like plum blossoms attached to it. So that's her look. I think both you and Xiaolian have your hair up with a hairpiece. Yeah.
Like the cheaper version. I've heard that.
Yeah. I mean the clothes don't fit as well, and she is well dressed, so she has the trait well dressed. So it's just a matter of fact that she's always going to be the best looking person in the room.
If only I could have that trait in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's when you get to your trade vote, right?
Okay, so I guess is Forgot approaching us, or
Well, I'm gonna let you do something before we get to that.
I think kind of caught up in how much scandal is already there. Nusha's going to just kind of crook her arm into Xiaolang, just to keep adding to the air that they're together,
Okay.
and follow her lead, because I think at this point she knows something's a little bit above what she'd expected, but doesn't know what yet. So she's just going to observe.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense completely. Yeah. So I think she'll finish her bow, stand up, and sort of like walk the two of you into the crowd, as though there's nothing in particular very wrong about what is happening. And like probably like walks over to one of the serving staff and like takes an hors d'oeuvre and starts eating it, as everybody is staring and the hubbub is continuing. Um, so she's eating some kind of sort of like Middle Eastern hors d'oeuvre, we can imagine. I don't know what that would be. Maybe
Date wrapped in something.
yeah, totally something involving a date. Yeah, munching on that and looking very self-satisfied. Um, then I think that yeah, we'll get into it. I think that for Cot, who maybe by reputation,
I think we said that I've seen him. 'Cause he's
yeah,
had us here before, but he probably does not know me.
yeah, you're kind of beneath his notice. He doesn't have a relationship with you, but he does have a
Look at my
relationship.
brother.
I think he has a relationship with Xiaolian. I think he bought that. Uh, yes, he did.
It would make sense. He wouldn't want her to be running rampant around here.
Yeah,
Good to know.
he has a hateful relationship with her. So,
Sorry.
um, he walks over, and gives the two of you a cold look, um, and he says, "I expected that an envoy of your station and mission would understand the conventions and customs of my people and would understand the need for discretion here. I gave you an invitation to this gathering, and you have chosen to respond with a slap to my face and the honor of my household. Just what do you think you're doing? And I think that he turns to you, Nusha, and he looks at you, and he like looks at you again, and he's like, wait, you're not even from Xia. And he's like, and you, what are you doing dressed like that and coming here with this woman?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of how she's going to respond and still try to maintain, because I don't think she wants to burn a bridge with this guy, given that she's angling for her brother's position. I'm thinking soothing platitudes is going to come up here.
Oh yeah, I mean that seems like a good call to me.
I'm just trying to think of what she would say to achieve that effect.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna look up the skill description while you're having a think.
It says skill for placating angered or irksome fellows with words that say nothing but compliment everything.
Sounds very, very appropriate.
Very appropriate here.
It's going to be a very challenging test, I can tell you that much.
That's where I am, like, personally trying to think of what exactly could she say to assuage this, because that's going to be a rough butt. Probably something along, you know, doing my best to kind of to show her around, to I don't know.
Is this a thing like, oh, I'm simply or is this just following orders, sir, or like what
Yeah, I think that actually fits best, because not only would that also, or that would fit her belief of, you know, kind of digging deep, but it would also placate authority.
Yeah, so this is the Nuremberg defense of clothing.
Right. Yeah.
All right, great.
Okay. Yeah.
So what specifically does she say?
You know, honorable premier. I don't know exactly what his title would be. I'm simply showing our honored guest. Dang, I don't, I don't know how to phrase this. Tough spot.
Ooh, awkward. So yeah, we can do this at sort of the meta level and say, you say the appropriate soothing thing, which
right. I'm trying to think of what that would be, even if it is successful.
Yeah. Well, okay. So consequence of failure here is, I think that he is, I mean, he's just going to be, you know, personally irritated at you, right? Like, sure. He's going to hold a grudge against you for this.
And I think Nusha wants to aim to be somewhat beneath his notice here. Keep this scandal on Shellan, not herself.
Okay. So, soothing platitudes. The obstacle is his will, which...
Oh, okay, here we go. Simply following my brother's orders.
There it is.
Under the bus as well. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good. Very good. Okay, so for Caught, his will is 4. I think you are at a disadvantage here because this is a very awkward situation. So we're going to increase the obstacle to 5. Okay. So yeah, so you're rolling soothing platitudes against ob 5. The forks for soothing platitudes are persuasion and falsehood.
Falsehood I do have. So
I think both of those are absolutely relevant here.
Don't have persuasion though. We realized that last time.
Yeah, so you're working on it. But falsehood completely, like saying this was your brother's idea or whatever.
This is not something that he did order me to do, but he did order me to tail, I'm guessing, the marshal.
Yeah. It's a very much a half truth.
Right.
And
so a modifier of 1 then for the fork.
That would be +1. There's nothing else you can fork.
Persuasion and falsehood are the only ones that I don't have persuasion.
But you can do other ones as well as that if it's relevant to the situation. It's not not just the ones listed in the book.
So.
No, that looks about right to me.
Yeah,
I think falsehood is the fork. Yeah, so soothing platitudes, forking falsehood, and
so with Artha, because I will likely need to spend it here.
Yep. Persona comes before the roll.
And persona applies what again?
It gives you 1 extra die.
Okay.
But that doesn't count towards the obstacle. Artha doesn't count towards like how challenging the test is. Yeah. So I think it's like when it asks you for bonus dice, that's when you would put in.
Yeah, there's a. So bonus dice is the first part there. So let's see. Hang on, I gotta restart this. Platitude roll. So fork. If I spend a persuasion, that's gonna bring it up to a modifier of 2.
Persona, yes. It would give you +2.
Persona is gained back by achieving
your goals. Yeah.
Goals. Okay. I think it's worth it here. This is definitely a make or break moment for her. And then I can spend fate after the roll, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so this will bring it up to a 2. They have an input value here for Artha. Do I need to put?
Oh, sorry. That's where the persona goes.
That is okay. So
yeah. So the bonus die would be your fork, and then the persona goes into the Artha thing. Yeah. It's.
Click this. There we go. Okay. So 1. That's 1. And base obstacle was 5.
Yes, 5.
All right. Fingers crossed. Oh my.
Oh, that's a 1. That's a 1. Let's see what.
Dice do not like me.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the roll here. So you got a 2, a 6, a 2, and a 3. You've only got 1 success, so I can't advise you to spend fate to try to.
Right.
Like, because even if you spend, like, you got 4 fate, which means you could roll one of the traitors again, and then after that if you get a 6 on that, you could spend another fate to open end those 2 6s. But even then, that's rough. 1 on a 5. I don't know what the probability of success is there, but I can't say it's very high.
I think Nusha will probably be okay having gotten this little worm into his ear about her brother, regardless of if he believes it or not.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, Furcott scowls.
Heard it, he might not like me.
Yeah, he scowls and he says, well, it is fitting that you follow the orders and wishes of your brother, but I cannot approve of this behavior, and like gestures to the 2 of you. And I think he says, all right, I think Chalian at this point is going to pipe up and she'll say,
sorry, real quick, is this a routine, difficult, or challenging?
It's challenging. Challenging. Yep.
Got it.
Definitely challenging test. So yeah, so she pipes up and she's going to say, Premier, I thought you were a man of the world. Didn't you... I mean, look at all these people you've invited from foreign lands. Don't you want to make us feel welcome? And I think she's... What is she using here? What is this? Is this rhetoric?
It's awful close to an intimidation.
Yeah. I'm just thinking.
See, it depends on... So is she trying to call attention to how weird that dichotomy is, or...
Yeah, like she's trying to like call out his hypocrisy of being like, oh, we're cosmopolitan, we'll invite all these people in, but like also you have to follow my rules.
Right. Does this guy have a reputation for being kind of by the book, or does he have a reputation for being a kind of party animal?
His reputations, of which he has many, are mostly sort of like organizationally related. So he has a reputation as the premier of Aranea, and also a reputation as the head of the Bankers Guild. But as far as his traits go, no, he's definitely intense, and I think he is fairly by the book.
So would this party be more of like a social obligation or something?
Yes, it is. It is a function of the state, absolutely.
So she might not have as much leverage there.
Well, I mean, insofar as the state is supposed to be a cosmopolitan state, I think she does have something to work with.
Yeah.
So, rhetoric is a form of discourse centered on the conveyance of thoughts, ideas, and concepts in the interest of winning an argument.
That seems to fit.
Yeah, I think so. And so I believe she does have rhetoric, but she doesn't have a super high stat in it. Let's see. She has rhetoric. It is a 2. So rhetoric is the obstacle is the perception of the victim. This skill is used in Duel of Wits. Forks are oratory, soothing platitudes, and ugly truth. She does not have any of those. She does have oratory. She can fork oratory because she's definitely playing to the crowd here.
Yeah, I imagine they're all still watching.
Yeah, but I feel this is less a thing of speechifying and more of like trying to turn his position against him. And like, I think maybe today we don't go to a Duel of Wits because, as you said, you're feeling a little bit under the weather.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, because that could go on like a while.
We can get up to it and prepare it for the next session for sure.
Yeah. That could happen. We'll see how this goes.
Can Nusha assist in any way? That is.
Yes, you can absolutely give a helping die if you have a relevant skill. You have soothing platitudes, but
I do.
I feel like this is more of a ugly truth kind of situation. Do you have oratory? Do you have
I don't.
ugly truth?
No, I do have intimidation.
Okay, yeah, you could fork that. How would you be intimidating him in this situation?
Yeah, that I can't see. I guess only other than just her presence here, because she's playing the part of Demure. She's not going to be able to kind of throw around the weight she usually does in the streets. I think probably not in a court situation.
Okay, well, I think if you are playing Demure, then maybe you could fork in soothing platitudes. Because this...
Like, how much of a scene do you really want to cause here? That kind of...
Yeah, well, and also you would be... You're basically... Yeah, exactly. Like, you're not... You're not, like, stepping out of line as a demure woman. You're just, like, stepping out of line because of your dress and who you're with, right? So... Right. It's like, oh yeah, like, oh, I'm not here to cause a scene, I guess.
This hasn't
like,
reflected poorly on you yet, but could if you keep pushing this.
Yeah, which again, that feels like ugly truth to me. So I think in the end, I have to say you're probably not going to be able to help on this.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so she
got herself this deep, and honestly, even if she fails this, all the better for Nusha.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, to a point, but yeah.
For my mom.
Okay. Okay, I'll figure out this roll.
Sorry.
Yeah. So she is doing rhetoric. So I'll add that into the skill list here. Rhetoric. which is a B2 skill for her. And she has... Oh, I should make sure I get rid of one of those persona for Nusha. She's going to spend a persona on this. Okay. So she's going to roll rhetoric. Modifiers, she gets 1 from forking oratory. And she's spending 1 Artha. And the obstacle is perception of...
Alright, I'm back, sorry.
Okay. The obstacle is the perception of... For cut, I think is a 6. It's real rough.
So what skill is she rolling?
She's rolling rhetoric. And so it's Ob 6. Okay. Oh no, you guys just can't catch a break. 1 on a... Oh man, 1 versus Ob 6, that's even worse. So he says... Be that as it may, it is also the case that you are a diplomatic envoy to this court, and as such should be considerate of your hosts, don't you think, Marshal? Yeah, and I feel like this is kind of getting into a duel of wits, but like,
we can run it. I've got a little bit of time on me.
Okay. Hang on. Let me just see if I have the cards for the duel of wits. Because here's the thing: is I only really want to do a duel of wits if it is your character that is at the center of the duel. Right. And like, yeah, I don't want a duel of wits between 2 NPCs. That seems a little bit silly. So, I think that Qiao Lian's cheeks go a little bit red. She's keeping her cool, but like she knows she's on the back foot. And she looks around the crowd, and there's a lot of people either looking shocked, disapproving. Some of them are amused, but she's in the thick of it. This is what she wanted, and it's going to be tough to get herself out of it. So I think she's going to make an oratory test to try to sway the crowd to her side. Okay. So I think she's...
Not to forget, but actually trying to...
Yeah, to the crowd specifically, not to him. Because, like, she knows that she's lost that fight. She says... I think she says, "My fellow guests, thank you for sharing my company on this evening and that of my partner." Points to you. She says, "I apologize if we have offended with our appearance. I must confess, a lover of my own culture to the point of a fault. And I simply wished to entertain all of you with a display of the fine works of my homeland. I meant no offense, and I hope that you will forgive me and share my company this evening." So she's going to make her oratory test here.
Good case.
Okay, so this is oratory. And then once after this is resolved, we'll maybe let you sort of like break out and mill around the crowd, and we'll see where you can, what you do.
Sounds good.
So the obstacle of oratory is the most common will exponent in the crowd. And the forks are command, persuasion, and rhetoric. Okay. So the will of the crowd, I mean, these are important people, so I'd say it's probably 4. They're not just a bunch of peasants.
Do they know Xia culture particularly well, though? Could they
Some of them would, yes.
tell her lie? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that it's kind of like she's going to take a disadvantage die, I think, for this.
Yeah.
So I'll just add that. Oratory. Her skill in that is... She's got... Oh, she has a G5 oratory.
That's the higher shade?
Yeah, like, this is... She is good at this. This is her jam. Okay, so oratory. Up that shade right there. So G5. Holy shit. Alright, and that...
So she only needs 3s and up? Is that...
It is... She only... Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that was a challenging rhetoric test she made, so I'll mark that for advancement. Okay, so, forks. Obviously rhetoric, she'll fork. She'll also fork, etiquette, persuasion, and I think she's gonna take a extra bonus die for being well dressed. So let's see how this works out. Okay, so she's gonna roll. So the modifiers are etiquette, rhetoric, persuasion, +1 for being well dressed. Yeah, so that's 4. I will get her... No, I'm not... I don't think she needs to spend Persona on this, because this is G5 against... Or G... No, what? G7 against OB4.
God,
well,
G7?
She might... Well, she might spend... I'll get her to spend a Persona. What the hell?
How is she able to advance this much in burning?
Because she is a noble. Like... The game very heavily weights the fact that, like, you come from... Like, if you come from a high status, like a high class position, like, you just get so many more skill points because you're educated and because you're not, like, struggling every day of your life just to survive. Yeah. And the base obstacle is 4. Alright. Oh, success! 5 successes against OB4. Okay, so yeah, so the crowd is like looks at her for a moment, and then like they start like nodding a little bit, and I think there's like some members from like the Elven delegation who are like smirking a little bit, like well played. And like Furkat is looking pretty... Or actually, you know what? She did succeed, but that should have been 5 against OB5. Because there was a disadvantage die at play there. I forgot to add. So, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'll just remember. Yeah, so it's fine. So, yeah, so that's kind of the thing, is like the crowd does sort of like begin to break up again. The hubbub dies down, and the two of you are sort of free to move around the crowd. Furkat scowls and like moves back into the crowd, like gives you a curt nod, and goes to talk to one of his lackeys. So what do you want to do here?
I think probably in this case I'm looking to feel out anybody who might have grievance with the Guild of Notaries
Mm-hmm.
that I can use as contacts later. Because I don't think anybody other than maybe Farkot would probably know that that is where I'm from, especially if I'm dressed like this.
Yes. Very good. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So why don't you circle someone's up? This is
Yeah.
going to be a real easy circles test because like there's a lot of people who would have a reason to have a beef with the Guild of Notaries. Um, yeah. So circles.
Let's see. 378. Did I
Okay.
roll any of those up?
You did do circles last time.
Oh, that's right, I did. I'm a little rusty. Let's see.
Okay. So
Where are those in the character sheet?
it is on your sheet. Circles
Oh, I don't think
is
I marked it.
it's under attributes. It's not a skill. It's an attribute.
Okay.
Yeah. So like under right under attributes, there's circles.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, yeah. Um. Okay. So, fortunate for you, there is no noble court setting in this city, because everybody here is pretty much city born, so they are all also within your setting.
circle.
So you're not going to have any disadvantages for rolling somebody up.
Got it.
So you can use your reputations and affiliations if they are relevant.
Let's see. Back to my character burner for that. I just have my Guild of Notaries affiliation. I think the others are relationships.
Yeah, so that would be useful for finding someone in the guild. And that's an affiliation, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. If it was a reputation, it might have helped you.
Nice is what it says there.
Yeah, if it was a reputation, it might have helped you, but as an affiliation, I don't think you can use it here.
I don't think I have I bought a specific reputation. I just bought
Yeah,
affiliations
that
and relationships.
that totally makes sense because they're very expensive. Okay, so the obstacle. Who are you looking for? I think in terms of occupation,
I think the occupation's less important.
yeah, I think it's not significant. It doesn't modify it. The station. Are you looking for someone of a higher rank, station, or class than you? Or someone...
Probably not the way that these guilds shake out.
Okay.
I think probably at this point, actually, the Guild of Notaries is a bit higher up in station, but I'm not using that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not making that common knowledge that I am from the Guild of Notaries. So
Okay.
that would affect that as
So
well.
we'll say that's not relevant. So disposition and character knowledge. You can add a qualification to the character you're looking for. He can be skilled in damascening, the best in town, loyal, or have special knowledge. I don't think that's relevant here.
Yeah, maybe I am though looking for somebody whose services I could mobilize later.
So are you looking? You're looking for someone with a like beef against.
Yeah, I think what specifically Nusha would be looking for here is somebody who can mobilize against the Guild of Notaries should the need arise, and I think she's just kind of spread some poison, get them a little bit more riled up.
Okay, well, let's say that's a +1 ob there.
Okay.
And time and place, I think...
They're all at the party already.
I mean, yeah, I don't think I don't think there's going to be any extra ob. So you're rolling your circles. It's a ob 2 test, ob 2 circles
What
test.
base is 1?
Yeah, base is 1, so it's +1, so it's ob 2.
Okay. No modifiers on my part.
No, because you don't have any reputations or affiliations that are relevant. And you can always spend Artha if you want.
You can do that afterwards, though.
Yeah.
Only, right? Because I've got
Yeah, that's right.
base altitude 2. And where did I go?
So you got 1 success, and you did get a 6, so I would definitely recommend re-rolling that. Spend a fate.
How are you seeing that again?
You just mouse over the successes.
Okay.
Yeah. So just roll 1d6 and see how this goes. Okay. So that is going to give you the success you need. Yeah, it's a 4.
So, and I mark off a fate from my sheet.
You mark off the fate from your sheet, and you mark a difficult circles test. Cool. Yeah. So, so somebody who has like a sort of grudge against the Guild of Notaries and could be useful in the future is what you're saying here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you're gonna meet somebody from the Armorers Guild. Yeah. I think this guy is I think he is probably like he's a guy again probably like in his like 40s. He's got black hair, but he's completely bald, sort of darker skin tone, olive skin tone, and he's got like a big bushy black beard over top of his like his robes that he's wearing, and like has like it's probably like he has like an iron chain around his neck that represents that he's from the Guild of Armorers. And so yeah, so you go up and approach him, and yeah, you don't have enmity clause with him, so he is going to be friendly to you. And he says, "Oh, my dear, why are you dressed in such a strange manner this evening?"
Well, I must admit, I'm simply learning a little bit more about Shaw Customs. They told me this was a fine robe for a young woman such as myself.
He says, "Perhaps it is. This is, well, we must change with the times, I suppose."
A little change never hurt. Speaking of, and may I ask who I have the good pleasure of meeting?
And I think you would actually know this guy by reputation, probably, because
okay.
he's the head of the guild. So his name is probably like, oh man, gonna have to do some name searching on the spot. I think this is probably Feruza. Feruza, the head of the Guild of Armorers.
Speaking of, because I'll probably be mentioning him in the conversation, I don't think we gave a name to my brother. Does he have one?
Oh, we didn't. No. So, maybe Rustum.
Rustum, I guess. All right, cool. Good for his. Maybe a little change isn't such a bad thing. That said, some of it rankles me. I don't know if you have had the displeasure, and I'm guessing this guy doesn't know, has not met me in, like, as a member of the Notaries Guild. He might not know that.
No.
Okay. I don't know if you've had the displeasure of having run into any of the members of the Notary Guild.
he scoffs and he's like, well, they've certainly been snooping around, trying to take my money. You can imagine that after a long war, my guild has prospered. We did our part in assisting the war effort over all those long years. So, we are an easy mark, you might say.
And they expect you to be able to pay the same now that you're in a time of peace?
Well, the way they see it is that this is a tax of sorts on a period of long profit. We did better than the other guilds in town during the war, you might suppose, and they say, the notaries say that we must do our part.
And how has that affected you, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay, so this is going to be a persuasion check, I think, to... Yeah.
Oh, that's right, I don't have persuasion.
Mm-hmm. So, if you fail the persuasion check, I would say the consequence of failure, I think, would be that he becomes suspicious.
Okay.
Yeah.
She may not press that then.
Okay.
Instead, go for... I don't know that Feruza knows enough about me to know what my family's business is. I would guess not.
I don't think so, especially not in the clothes you're in. Like, you could make an inconspicuous test, but I'm not gonna
Sure.
like if you want an inconspicuous test, I will let you roll that. But yeah.
So I think she maybe found Feruza because she knows him in passing and
Yeah.
not in a business sense. She may say, well, I must admit, my family's business has also been suffering. Clearly, not as much as your own, but when the Guild of Notaries came by to tax us, as you say, I must admit, I don't think all of that money is going to the reparations. I think some of it's going to them. I don't know if this counts as a falsehood.
Yeah, this would be a falsehood test. Okay. Like, probably, like, you can fork soothing platitudes, I'd say.
Yeah, he's probably already suspicious.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to drive it home a little bit. So, modifier of 1 for that. What else forks from?
From falsehood.
Got some forks for that. Because this is one of her focus areas. Persuasion. Yep. So which she does not have. Okay. So 1 there. No Artha. Base obstacle would be.
It would be his will, which would be 4. I think, or wait, is that perception? Falsehood is against...
Base will, it's will, yeah.
Yeah, so it would be 4, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't have any 6s, like, and re-rolling one of those dice I don't think is worth it, so, yeah, so the consequence of failure here, I think that, well, what he's gonna say is, oh, well, I suppose you're right about the motives and behaviors of the Guild of Notaries, but I must ask, my dear, what is your father's business?
He is a... He's a carpenter.
A carpenter? And he must be one of some note for the notaries to come knocking. What is his name?
His name, Nasir.
I see, I see, I see. I have not heard this name. And
We are unfortunately probably beneath your notice.
he says, beneath my notice, but well within the gaze of the Guild of Notaries.
Clearly, nobody escapes it.
He says, be that as it may, you can imagine that I often have the occasion to deal with the carpenters of our city. And I suspect, my dear girl, that you are lying to me.
Well, I must admit you've caught me. My father is unfortunately a man of ill repute who has still happened to have run-ins with the notaries. He manufactures alcohol.
Huh. I see. A brewer. Well, there is money to be made in that business, I suppose.
And a little to take on the side.
And, of course, some say that my line of work is ill-reputed as well, though I have to disagree.
Certainly, certainly. I will say also that the war did wonders for our business. People tend to drink more when they are under the yoke.
Yeah, so as the sort of player from the Iranian culture, do you think that there is a public ban on drinking? Is it just frowned upon? Is it accepted? Like what do you think the ill repute is here?
There wasn't a ban on it until maybe the war. As that dragged on, the war weariness kind of made public intoxication a big deal.
So this was like a sort of emergency public measure more than it is like a long-term custom.
Right. Brewers have fallen on harder times.
In a way.
In a way.
Yeah, it's like prohibition, right? Like
right.
if you can
the money,
keep,
it's just suddenly they're not the favorites anymore.
Yeah. So I think what he does is so everybody's drinking at this party, but
Right.
I think it's like as a show of solidarity, like the punch isn't spiked. Like it's just like it's just juice. Everybody's drinking. And he pulls out like a flask and winks at you, and then he's gonna pour some liquor in your drink and then his if you'll let him.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and then he puts the flask away, and he says, "So, what is your name?"
I think she's just gonna go with her regular name. He wouldn't know it necessarily. So Nusha.
He says, "Well, to your health, my dear Nusha," and he's gonna give you a cheers.
And to you supporting my father's business.
And he chuckles at that and takes a drink. So what do you want from him at this point?
So I think it may have gotten away from her a little bit. But I think he just wants to feel out the discontent with the Guild of Notaries, and although she was unsuccessful in spreading the falsehood that they're taking some on the side, just stir the pot a little bit.
Well, I don't think you were necessarily unsuccessful in that, right? Like that, the consequence was not so much that he disbelieved the idea that the notaries were taking a cut on the side, so much as he disbelieved that you were actually from the the Carpenters Guild, right?
But is willing to believe that they're...
Yeah, totally. But I think it's a thing that's remaining at the level of a rumor, right?
Right.
So, any further things you want from him?
I think also she might want to, especially given that he's in the Armorers Guild, kind of put the drive for war back in him.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, because clearly it was better for his business. It's better for, I would imagine, many of the businesses.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and not for the bureaucrats. So a bit of a culture war, I think.
Right.
Which he's trying to start.
Okay, so how are you gonna do that?
I don't know. Other than so her station is hard to work around here.
Well, you could. I mean, I don't think you can make a specific business proposition, but you certainly could try to like flatter him into sort of getting the idea in his head that he should work towards this end.
Right. Is there a flattery skill, or is that soothing platitudes?
I don't think that's soothing platitudes. I think that would be more persuasion.
Okay. Yeah, I think she'll say something along the lines of, "My dear man, I don't mean to speak out of turn, but I can't say the war was all bad. I do miss the influx of spending money we had, and while I regret the lives lost, I can't help but think that this peace, such as it is really much better for us."
And he says, "You say that, but the fact remains, we lost the war, and I want you to make that persuasion check."
Okay. I think can she also kind of point to the situation that she's in and say, I didn't want to be the plaything of the Shah, and point to her clothes there. Look where we are now, kind of.
Is like, yeah, it's like, oh, we lost, and look at what they've done to me.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. So, yeah. So this is gonna be persuasion.
Check out these forks again. Falsehood, haggling, soothing platitude, truth. I have 3 of those, but I don't know that haggling fits.
Yeah, I think probably soothing platitudes. I think falsehood is significant here.
Yeah.
Other things that might fork.
I don't have ugly truth.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's probably where you're at. I think you get 2 forks. Yeah. And any Arthur? Well, you can't spend Arthur yet, so.
No. What is the base obstacle?
The
it doubles it automatically, right?
Yes. His will is 4.
Okay. Come on. Can I get it?
Oh, and I think, well, you're pointing to your clothing, so I'll give you an advantage die for that.
Complications. Do I put anything there? That would be for like enmity clause and things.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so 0. Not bad.
Okay, 5 against 8.
No 6s to open it.
That's rough. That's rough. Yeah. Yeah, so he says, it certainly is a shame we must all bear, but I think, my dear, that it is not the place of a girl to be providing advice in matters of war.
I think she will certainly bear down on her when pressed by authority, yield, and apologize profusely.
Yeah, he says, it is no matter.
The drink.
yeah. He says, of course. The time will come. The time will come when our honor may be restored, but it is not today. And if you will excuse me, and I think he will say, he turns back to you and he says, "Is there a place I could look for you in town?"
My father has a still, and I guess she'll explain the shack that she owns,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and pass it off as a place where he has a still.
And he says, "Well, if the mood strikes me, may send for you someday. And
Grateful.
until then, uh, may you have good fortune."
And same to you.
And so he's gonna pass off into the crowd, go talk to somebody else. Anything else you want to do at the party?
Uh, are the elves fairly common here, or is they're from a
They
distant
are.
land?
I mean, they're from a distant land, but like, they do have a presence here. Like, it was
Right.
something we established in world building that like
Right.
part of
Right.
this being a cosmopolitan place is that like yeah, like elves come and do business in this town.
As
Um,
far as their like take on the war, do they have a side, or are they just kind of manage
uh,
these human concerns?
that would probably, if you want to learn that, I feel like you'd be using a wise, probably. Yeah, that would be definitely a wise you'd be rolling. So like it
Okay.
could be, what wise would you be interested in opening?
Um,
Is it like elf wise? Is it
I don't know if she'd want to get that.
politics wise?
Yeah, maybe something a little bit more open and just in that I could continue to use about the
News
con
wise?
news. Yeah, maybe that fits.
Okay, cool.
Because it's a little different than Streetwise, which she has, which
Yeah,
is more
yeah,
like
yeah.
street level news, more political.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Um,
so do you want politics wise or do you want news wise? Which one is the one you're interested in?
Actually, maybe politics wise, because that's where she's going to be playing if everything goes according to plan.
Okay.
What is the
The root of wise is always perception.
perception? Okay. And I guess she's just going to kind of talk with various people in the crowds. I don't know that we need to play out each one of them. Just getting a feel for
The
I think probably where the elves
Yeah.
land in this, and maybe even if it needs to be another role, so be it. But maybe even also some of the larger guilds where they stand.
Right. I think that would be a separate thing. That
Separate
would
role.
that would probably be more of like a guild wise test.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want to do politics wise to learn what is up with the elves,
Sure.
then go for it.
And I don't think there's any modifiers on that necessarily, or anything I can fork. I can't fork.
Yeah, I don't think like because Chelian succeeded at her rhetoric test, like I think that you're not at a disadvantage here.
Right.
Um, yeah, but no
Okay.
no advantages, I would say.
Base obstacle will be.
Yeah, good question.
I imagine people are probably talking pretty freely about some of this. Maybe not the elf thing, but for the guilds.
Yeah, it's because it's specifically about the elves that we would need to think about this a little bit. So testing wises. I think you just kind of set the obstacle as needed. I think we did this last time.
I think that's right.
Um,
Tested Xiao Wise last time.
yeah. What was the obstacle on that test?
I don't remember. Scroll
We
back
can
up.
scroll. Yeah.
4.
Okay. So it's
Now I
probably
don't know if
it
that's
was probably ob2 doubled to 4, right?
yeah, I think so.
Um,
Success handles it.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So we'll say again, it's probably an ob2 test.
Okay. No modifier, no Artha, up 2. Complications.
Ooh, 3 on a 4.
Some-
You have a
some
6.
here. I'm gonna use it. I want to see what these elves are all about.
So you spent how much fate this session?
Here we go. 2.
Okay.
Or I've spent 1 persona and 2 fate.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna get.
I already marked it down on curve.
Okay.
Both of those.
Cool.
Mark that back down too. That is a success.
Awesome. All right.
Do I mark advancement since it's being learned?
Uh,
Or just on a failure.
You only mark advancement on a failure. Yes,
Okay.
that's right. Or wait, hang on. Is that right? I might need successes to also advance. I haven't thought about that, but I don't think you have to mark it. Okay, advancement. Advancing skills. With few exceptions, tests for advancement are earned whether the character was successful or not. Pass or fail, a test is earned. So the exceptions are perception, resources, and faith. So if you fail a perception test, you do not get it. But
that would be a straight attribute.
Yeah, oh, actually, so yeah, that's an important thing because we did a perception test this turn or this round, and you did fail. So you actually do not mark that.
Oh, I actually didn't mark it, so that works.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so politics-wise, you do mark though. Routine test.
All right, got it.
Yeah. So okay. So what do you think the elves feel about this situation? You succeeded on your wise test, so you get to kind of decide what it is.
I'd imagine they are, because the elves in this situation are also long-lived, like they.
Yeah, I think so.
Standard fantasy. I'd imagine they are probably. They definitely notice it and they're following it, but only in the sense that like a historian would follow it, not.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting involved. They're just kind of feeling it out and seeing where it will go. I think they aren't above maybe manipulating a couple small things, but not as a race. They're mostly just like, if somebody's got a business interest, they'll kind of finagle a little bit, but they're not going to get directly involved in the conflict.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that they might. The elves might have. At least their reason for being here, they might have their fingers in some of the businesses or guilds.
Yeah, like they definitely, I would think, would have business with the guilds, for sure.
I wonder, are there any in particular that she might be aware of
now? I feel like it would probably be like the Jewelers Guild. Maybe like the Carpenters Guild, I could kind of see. Yeah, like maybe they're providing wood,
And feel free to say no here. It might be interesting if the elves are like armorers and gun runners in a sense. Like they're, I imagine their craftsmanship is a lot better. They are.
Yeah.
Maybe feeling out who they can provide weapons to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think like it's like gonna be premium stuff that can only be bought in small batches, but yeah, like totally.
So they have an interest in this war. They're not involved.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So is that all you wanted to know, or did you want to go?
Yeah, I think that'll just open up another avenue possibly later.
Okay. Cool. All right. So is that everything you want from the party?
I think it's all that Nusha would be able to gather.
Okay.
Given the scenario.
All right. So the evening kind of goes on. You feel a little bit tipsy because you've been drinking, but most people there are still pretty much sober. And I think that probably like the events at the ball, they probably have like some dancers come up, they have some singers come up, but I don't think it's the kind of ball where the guests themselves are doing a lot of dancing. So you mill around, you meet some people, the evening winds down. I think Xiaoliang comes to collect you. And she says, well, Nusha, I hope that was as fruitful for you as it was for me.
It was an enlightening experience. Thank you for allowing me to attend.
Of course, of course. You were most useful. And she says, please accompany me back to my residence.
It would be my pleasure.
All right. And so I think with that, you get to exit the ball. The guards give you a frosty look. Like, they know who their boss is and what his attitude is. Like, he was not swayed by that oratory test. So, like, yeah, they both, like, stare you down. And, you know, it's kind of like if people out on the street see you enter the palanquin, they kind of, like, gawk at you because Qiaoyan is well dressed, but also they look at you, like, disapprovingly, right?
Yeah, and even that I'm going home with her is...
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like, this is just, like, not acceptable. Yeah. So, but as far as, you know, the guests go, they're not giving you shit. So yeah, you get back into the palanquin, and they take you back to her residence. So, how are you feeling? Do you want to wrap the session there, or?
Yeah, may call it there if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Cool.
And then, I wonder if next session we can definitely get Long Wei in there. I think it kind of like report back to him and see.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think she's probably gonna try to do a seduction test on you, and then after that, we'll see where that goes, and then we'll get you out on the street doing your job and getting Long Wei into the picture. Yeah.
Awesome.
Totally. Okay, so let's look at your advancement, or sorry, your Artha stuff, for the end of the session. Earning Artha. Okay, so let's look at your beliefs, instincts and traits. So beliefs and instincts. So your first belief was, a collapse of the peace tree will disgrace my brother. I will sabotage the reparations payments to cause chaos. I think you definitely work towards that.
Work towards it, yeah. Definitely didn't achieve it.
Yeah, so I think you're going to get a fate point for that.
Put that on the sheet if you want to put it in the...
Yeah, I got it, yeah. And your next belief, the marshal is fond of me. I will manipulate her to my advantage. I don't think you did that this...
Yeah, I don't think I did much of the manipulation there.
Yeah. Okay. And Long Wei is my beloved. I will work to restore his standing. I think we'll see that next session for sure.
Yeah.
Instincts, when doing work, always cover my tracks. I think you tried to do that. It did get you in trouble, so I'll give you a fate point for that.
And nothing in that case, nothing yet is going to be an issue there, but probably could in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, this guy,
he's amenable to me now, but he is amenable to the character I'm playing.
Exactly. You have to play a character you aren't in dealing with him. Yeah. Always remember slights against me. I don't think that really came up this session. Yeah. And when pressed by an authority figure, always yield. You did it, but I'm not sure it actually got you into trouble, right? Like,
right.
That was
all. Was getting into trouble.
Yeah. It was like, it was more like a thing where, it was more a thing where you,
had he been able to place me, it would have.
Yeah. It actually worked to your advantage, is what I would say here. Okay. And I don't know, we can look at Xiaolan's sheet. I don't think she did much, but let's see. Yeah. So, okay, I have sworn to work against my orders from the Emperor. I will keep this from all except my cousin. Okay, that's not relevant. I have put my enemies at the ball off balance. Now is the time to press the advantage. I think maybe she
Depends
gets
on
it.
what she was talking about.
Yeah, I think that belief wasn't very well worded. I think that's maybe like a thing we don't really know what she achieved at the ball.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't think so. And Nusha has proven to be both cunning and lovable. I will use her as befits her character. I think.
She got me in.
Yeah, she did get you in. So I'll give her a fate for this. And that's enough. Um, Yep. Okay, cool. So the other things, like, I don't think we really saw embodiment in this session or mold breaker. So I don't think there's any extra Artha to be thrown around.
What page is that on again? I'm trying to.
64. So when a player captures the mood of the table perfectly and further drives the story onward, 1 persona point is awarded. Moments like great speeches, desperate decisions, or gruesome revenge fall into this category. This is a tough award to get, as a player really must go above and beyond in his role-playing. So, I mean...
I think if Chelan had had the upper hand for that oratory, that might have applied, but she was doing that to...
over. Yeah, I mean, I think it's... was it a great speech? I don't know. I mean, I feel like it wasn't quite there. Like...
It was enough. Yeah,
it was a good speech that I made, but I don't think I quite deserve the persona for it. It's not like, wow, like everybody afterwards will be like, wow, gee, Kyle is so good at speechifying. Yeah. Anyway, so that's cool. Yeah, it's not really it's not about the mechanical implications of it. It's more about like, yeah, it's embodiment. So it's like, how well are you role playing, right? Like that's really the question there. Cool. Yeah, so I will definitely take some notes on the new characters we met. We didn't see your brother. That's interesting.
No, I don't remember. I mean, I guess he may have been there, but
he was there for sure. Like, so he's the head of the guild.
Saw this
kerfuffle.
But he definitely didn't know what I was milling about asking.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't know what you were asking about, but he saw you dressing the way you were and is probably like real pissed about it.
And to be honest, like I think Nusha wants him suspicious and distracted.
Yeah.
All the more to make him potentially falter.
For sure. Cool. All right. So let's talk about stars and wishes. So do you have any stars for this session?
I loved the interaction with Faruza, the Armorers Guild guy. I like being able to have like I guess kind of contacts, and I love the circles mechanic for being able to like just pull somebody in.
Yeah, it's so good.
And like opening up story, whether they come to fruition or not.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that was fun, and circles is so good.
Man, God, it's so hard to think on your feet too. The system really does require a larger deal of embodiment of a character. Like you can roll for the persuasion, but you got to have a decent idea of what you're trying to persuade, of how you're going to do it, and that's hard. It's definitely the exercise of my role playing muscles.
Yeah, that's really true, and I think it's like a thing that is like extra the case because it is a 2-player game. Like, you know, normally when you're playing Burning Wheel, you spend like, you know, you're in a 5-hour session and you spend like roughly an hour and a half to 2 hours actually playing the game. But like it's broken up between other people's play segments, so you have more time to think about what you're doing, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I like the improvisational nature of it. That's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. And any wishes? Things you'd like to see?
I definitely want to see Nusha on the street. Like,
yeah.
I think there is such a difference in her character. Like, she is on the back foot here. She's playing as well as she can.
Yeah.
High society, but I think being able to actually see her plans go into motion is going to require that street level work.
Yeah,
Where
so
she's finally the hunter, not the prey.
exactly, yeah. So I think we're gonna kind of see the most of her at her back foot with being at Chelian's mercy after the ball. But then we will see the big shift, and like I want to see like 2 or 3 sessions of her out on the street doing her thing after that.
I think that's just narratively cool too, to be able to see your main character at a huge disadvantage first, and then like, so why is this person the protagonist? Oh,
right. Yeah, and I was like, so for as far as stars go for myself, like I was happy to see in this session that like you were able to be a little bit more active and forward, and kind of pursue your goals, and even though you were at a disadvantage because you were not really exactly in the same social setting as you're most comfortable in, you still were able to get some things that you wanted, so that was pretty cool. And wishes for myself, I wish, yeah, I want to get better at framing scenes where there's like multiple NPCs involved, but you can still drive the fiction. Like I don't want to spend too much time rolling against myself, Like in that scenario we were in at the beginning of the session, like I said, we totally could have gone to a duel of wits, but then that would have just been duel of wits me against myself. And like Nusha is not in a social position where she could actually be an equal participant in that duel of wits, right?
I think the setting will help a lot of that too. Like just a place where she is a better where she's not on the back foot, definitely.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, I also want to see her out on the street doing her thing, and like.
But I really like. I would love to come back to this setting as well.
And
once she's got the wheels in motion. See the results of her actions. You rolling against yourself, but it's stuff that she's put into motion.
Yes.
Long before.
Yeah, and like, seeing. Yeah, it's going to be interesting next session, like, seeing her as, like, the main agent, and then, like, Long Way is going to be the lackey following her around. Yeah, that's going to be cool. Okay, all right, yeah, so I think that's going to wrap it up for this session. It's a good time. For anyone who watched, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.
Sounds good.